forever. The world economy is experiencing a paradigm shift. Demands are changing. Hence, our operational strategies must transform too. We need to recalibrate our priorities in order to go through the prolonged uncertainties. In fact, we already charted direction to be more resilient against future shocks. The most obvious of which is the utilization of global technology, of digital technologies. Digitalization of finance, commerce, and operations have accelerated as 3.9 billion people, or actually half of the world population, was forced to stay at home during global lockdowns. That was enforced across over 90 countries during the second quarter of this year. More needs to be done to turn Malaysia's situation around. The prudent management of COVID-19 outbreak has put us in a good stable to transition from economic recovery to its revitalization, represented by the upcoming budget 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the Malaysian government's we call it 6R economic recovery strategy, our upcoming budget 2021 has a clear focus to revitalize the economy through three objectives. Firstly, we are committed to continue protecting lives and livelihood. Secondly, we have to build on the current recovery momentum spurred by 305 billion ringgit economic stimulus packages under Prihatin, Penjana, and Kita Prihatin. These stimulus packages have cushioned the impact for people and businesses by adding over 3% to this year's GDP growth. And finally, the budget 2021 will underline a combination of business-friendly policies, prudent fiscal management, and effective transformation tools to build the nation's resilience against future economic shocks. This will put us in a better position to ride on the growth trajectory ahead. To the international business communities and our trading partners, I would like to reiterate that Malaysia remains open for business. We have helped businesses maintain their operating capacity through initiatives such as the wage subsidy programs that have saved close to 2.6 million jobs, as well as technology adoption programs which help upgrade businesses, both large and small. We have seen signs of Malaysia's resilience during this challenging period. Despite the lockdown, our country has recorded positive FDI in second quarter, bringing total FDI to 696.5 billion ringgit as at the end of June 2020. This is complemented with 726 projects with proposed investments of 36.7 billion ringgit in the pipeline. The Malaysian economy is also expected to grow by up to 8% in 2021, representing one of the fastest economic growth among East Asian nations next year. This is a testament that Malaysia is a good platform for businesses to thrive in the region by investing and capitalizing on our potential growth story. Furthermore, we have seen Malaysian businesses in key sectors taking advantage of the opportunities brought about by the changing trends, including health products and equipment, electrical and electronic, fintech, as well as e-commerce. The country has also managed to create a healthy business environment, ranked 12 out of 190 economies by the World Bank in its Doing Business 2020 report, gaining 3 spots from the previous year. We hope to maintain this trajectory to ensure continued economic recovery. Moving forward, Malaysia will play to its strength, just as how digitalization has been accelerated by the COVID-19 lockdowns. We will take this opportunity to move up the value chain, taking advantage of our strategic geographical location, agile workforce, prudent management of resources, good infrastructure, and our leading reputation in key sectors, including Islamic finance and the halal economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the COVID-19 vaccine is not commercially available, the pandemic remains a threat to our socio-economic recovery, development, and also future growth. And the upcoming budget 2021 is an opportune time for the government to consider and adopt more sustainable ways to grow the economy and build our future resiliency. Budget 2021 measures will be established based on four key principles. Firstly, caring for the people. For example, the government will focus on addressing income contraction, income disparity, high-value job creation, and also the digital divide of the vulnerable groups. Secondly, steering the economy, which include enhancing human capital development on TVET and upskilling, public-private partnership to boost knowledge transfer and innovation. Thirdly, sustainable living, where we will consider principles of the circular economy, touching on areas of sustainable production, consumption, conserving natural resources, business, and also social sustainability. And finally, enhancing public service delivery through data and digitalization to improve efficiency of execution, as well as through greater collaboration with civil society, NGOs, and agencies, including GLCs and JLICs. One of the government's top priorities is to attract quality investments that will add value to the nation's economy, facilitate technology transfer, and allow Malaysia to transition towards a high-income economy. This entails high-impact priority investments and innovations to bring about higher value jobs with more extensive forward and backward linkages. I would like to emphasize that ensuring greater competitiveness is central to the government's investment promotion strategy. Several key strategies have been introduced by the government, which includes, firstly, ensuring well-established ecosystem for the E&E sector. These include ensuring a robust talent pipeline, supporting infrastructure and continuous support for technological upgrading and labor upskilling. Secondly, greater focus towards accelerating transition to a digital economy, particularly in the area of improving infrastructure for investments nationwide. This includes initiatives such as the National Digital Network, or JINDELA, and the National Digital Identity. Thirdly, investment tax incentives, which is already announced under Penjana for companies relocating to Malaysia. Fourthly, strengthening investor and ancillary services to facilitate investments under Penjana, such as establishing the Project Acceleration and Coordination Unit, or PACU, as well as 2-day approval time for manufacturing licenses for non-sensitive industries. The COVID-19 episode has also taught us the importance of tracking our progress and execution. Our Prihatin and Penjana stimulus packages were implemented under the purview of our implementation unit called LANGSUNG. The data-driven approach has allowed us to improve our measures and implementation, and this should be the way forward in other aspects of nation building as well, including the measures under Budget 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now go back to the heart of today's discussion, which is the aftermath of COVID-19. So where do we go from here? Research shows that much needs to be done. Some countries are seeing 40% of jobs lost in the pandemic to remain unavailable for the years to come, which could undermine the economy if not addressed properly. While there are external factors that we cannot control, there are internal factors that we can facilitate and which will determine our success. For the government, the focus is clear. We will continue to support businesses, including SMEs and mid-tier companies in key sectors that are still reeling from the impact of the pandemic, and to ensure a stable and conducive environment for investments to come in and generate value-added returns. The government will also play its role in upgrading the gig economy, which is fast becoming an integral part of the nation's growth, and to transform the traditional sectors as well as to streamline the supply and demand in the job market. However, we cannot do this alone. The ecosystem requires the support of businesses, financial institutions, and other participants of the Malaysian economy to help us to get where we want to be. The ecosystem also warrants greater regional collaboration with our trading partners. In the current climate, Southeast Asia could become a preferred investment destination as businesses relocate due to global trade uncertainties. As I have stated in the recent APEC Finance Ministers meeting, it is critical to share key learnings and ideas from the recent pandemic to further develop our respective economies and to streamline our development efforts in finance, globalization, and infrastructure, to increase the regional competitiveness and face the headwinds as a united front. Ladies and gentlemen, the government invites each of us to play our role to revitalize and reform the economy. At the same time, we hope that Malaysians will remain steadfast, disciplined, and diligent in braving the current challenges. I'm very hopeful, given how Malaysians have shown the will to build a better society and have demonstrated it admirably during the nation's toughest months. So movements such as Kita Jaga Kita have witnessed Malaysians, young and old, coming together with NGOs, businesses, and corporations to help fellow Malaysians, be it donations for frontliners or providing food for the vulnerable segments of the society. The Malaysian spirit of unity in diversity shine bright. For the Malaysian industry leaders, again, I call for your support. Let's collaborate to push Malaysia forward and to take this opportunity to do things better in order for us to emerge from the crisis even stronger together. On another note, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Tan Sri Dr. Michael Yeo and his team for continuously bringing together successful conferences such as today, where we can contribute new ideas, strategies, and formulas to the business community, not just in Malaysia, but all over the world. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Tan Sri Abdul Omar and the ECKL Exco for their work towards encouraging discussions on economic issues as well as social and developmental issues. This has served as a bridge between the public and private sectors in deliberating on such issues. With that, I look forward to a fruitful and meaningful summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Tengku, for giving us a very insightful and informative opening keynote address this morning. We certainly look forward to the implementation of the various initiatives mentioned to revitalize the Malaysian economy. Our hopes and prayers are with you and your family for sustainability.
The public and we have three particular questions which I would like to pick. If I may, the first question, Yang Berhormat, is in respect of optimizing government's development expenditure. Through public-private partnerships based on user pay concept like toll roads, highways are effective in optimizing the government's development expenditure. Does the government still believe in this? And is the government proceeding with the selective toll reduction program as proposed previously? Now, obviously, from the investment committee, the fear is that subsidizing tolls for existing roads will effectively reduce viability of future essential highways, such as the southern alignment of the West Coast Expressways that will link Banting, KLIA, down to Port Dickson, Melaka, Muar, Batu Pahat, and Pontian. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for that question. For development projects which requires high capital outlays, our belief, the government feels that the model will still be the preferred option for today, especially as you mentioned, Tansi, on the highways. So on the highways, we are actually in the midst of studying what will be the best approach to ensure the rakyat will benefit from such agreements in the future, so that the government will not be burdened by the extended reimbursements. There's a committee that has been set, Minister of Works and also Minister of Economy and myself are now deliberating on this issue, which will then present to the Cabinet soon. But notwithstanding that, the government, we have decided that we'll continue to fulfill our commitment on the 18% discount on the Plus Highways. So in short, I think projects, especially developmental projects, must, and those that require high capital outlay will definitely require PPP model as a preferred option.
Thank you, Wabi. The second question is on EIS top-up and so on. So this is from Jonathan. Would government consider steps to consolidate the existing direct crisis response programs, especially the Persidangan handouts, wages replacement schemes, and the EIS top-up into an automatic stabilizer similar to the short-term work replacement scheme in Eurozone countries? The view is that this will cut down the time between the loss of income and confidence and receiving the funds. And secondly, it will streamline administration across a multitude of social safety nets.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan, for that question. At the moment, we are looking at consolidating all of the cash assistance that the government has provided for the rakyat. We are also in discussions with the relevant stakeholders, such as SOXO, on how we can improve the wage subsidy further. All this will be considered under budget 2021. However, we must keep in mind on the existing structural differences in Malaysia. For example, I think the question talked about EIS. EIS actually for SOXO can only pay out their out to their contributors, whereas for ones that have been announced in Persidangan and also Prihatin, they are directly paid out from the government to both contributors of SOXO and also the non-contributors. So it's actually two different schemes for EIS. But the extended wage subsidy, which was announced under Kita Prihatin, has been done in tandem with the way we've done the targeted moratorium, which is to be based on a more targeted approach to especially to those sectors that are affected. In terms of other issues, if you look at EIS, EIS is not meant only for crisis time, but it's also to cater for cyclical unemployment. That was the whole idea of having EIS in the first place. So we hope this will continue. But additionally, we are also using the data collected so far during these Prihatin and Persidangan packages to identify potential groups of people who need further assistance. We can then customize the assistance and go on a more targeted approach for them based on their needs.
The third question, for the economic recovery, sorry, this is from Caroline. For the economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis to be durable and resilient, a return to business as usual and environmentally destructive investment patterns and activities must be avoided. The question is, how sustainable are then the various fiscal stimulus in relation to the budget deficit that have been put in place by the government, and whether the pandemic will slow down the pace of institutional reforms?
Yeah. When we were, thank you, Tansi. When we were formulating the various packages, on top of mind was two things. How do we reduce unemployment and prevent businesses from closing down? The highest priority is, of course, to halt the spread of COVID-19 and responding effectively and accordingly. The longer such responses are delayed, the more intense and those effects will be especially to the poorest and the most vulnerable. To that, many of the initiatives had elements of monetary assistance to save businesses and livelihoods. For example, I said in my speech earlier, the wage subsidy program has benefited more than 2.6 million jobs. And of course, the payout is a lot. So far, the payout has been 11.9 billion ringgit, and more than 300,000 companies have benefited from this. But when we talk about ensuring the economy is resilient, the way I look at it is, if we did not introduce this direct cash assistance, businesses will close and more people will be out of employment. This may lead to various social issues as well, and not to mention about infrastructure and capacity issues going forward. Furthermore, businesses and industries will take longer in terms of recovery to recover if such assistance were not implemented. For example, the hospitality and construction sectors will take 4 years to recover if nothing is done. These two sectors combined employs more than 1 million people and is expected to be severely affected by the pandemic. However, we can also take this opportunity to reform by focusing on certain segments which we want to further develop and look into. For everyone's information, the government and its agencies are always already actively seeking to expand and diversify its economy as well as its revenue base. This is part of our long-term reform agenda. We are looking at all options, and that this is an ongoing process that will be intensifying. I'll give you a few examples. For example, our plantation sector is moving towards more value-added downstream production. Cost efficiency in public expenditure. The government has conducted savings and rationalization of expenditure, which amounts to about 1% of GDP or 7% of the total operating expenditure. We will also look into the shadow economy seriously, especially to plug and the leakages in tax collection, and also increasing our ability to deal with such economic activities. We are also, as I mentioned in the speech, actively courting high value added and innovative companies to relocate their business into Malaysia, especially in the view of the US-China trade war. On the longer term, we are also aiming to address and reform many of the existing structural challenges in the upcoming 12th Malaysia Plan. I think that's why it's very well versed on the Malaysia plans. So this 12th Malaysia Plan, just to give you a preview, includes reforming the national economic policy, looking at what industry that will be prioritized at the new normal, as well as the industry 4.0. Labor market, especially, will be also a focus, especially on, as you know, heavy reliance on foreign workers for labor-intensive sectors, such as manufacturing, construction, and agriculture. Talent development will also be key. This is making sure that it's aligned with the needs and demands of industries. And finally, addressing something most of you know about our high household debt issues, which is 85% of GDP, and switch back from consumption-based growth to investment-based growth.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Menteri, for that very insightful answers. Ladies and gentlemen, can we thank again our Minister of Finance, Yang Berhormat Tengku, for being gracious in this time, not only for delivering the keynote address as well as for answering the questions from the participants, but also for stepping up into the role 7 months ago. Tengku, many of us took for granted that you've been there for only 7 months, and yet there's been a lot of work done, and we do appreciate the sacrifice that you've made. I think we know that in order to step up, sacrifice not just in terms of remuneration, but in terms of the loss of your private life and so on. We truly appreciate your contribution for sure to the corporate sector. And as you prepare for the budget 2021 in 3.5 weeks' time, I would like to wish you all the best in the tabling of the budget 2021. So many of us are looking forward to hearing some great news from your budget 2021, obviously. So with that, again, thank you, Tengku. Can we give our appreciation to him?
Thank you, Seri. Thank you, everyone.
Tengku, if you don't mind staying online for a while longer, soon.
Yep.
Yes, sure.
Thank you, Tengku and Tan Sri, for a engaging Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen, KSI and ECKL is pleased to announce that it's come up with its own set of recommendations for the upcoming budget 2021. I believe, Tan Sri, Omar, are you present? Oh, okay. I'd like to invite Datuk Seri Iqbal Rakhtar, Chairman of the Economic Club of Kuala Lumpur, to present the summary of our findings and recommendations virtually. So, Yang Berhormat Tengku, this is the actual recommendation that we'll be sending over to you. So, I believe we'll do it via email rather than physically.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, good reading.
Thank you, Tan Sri, Datuk Seri. We now like to present mementos to our corporate sponsors of the Malaysian Economic Summit 2020. And for this occasion, I'd like